Alright, hello, citizens of the Nigelverse. It's Nigel here once again, and this is going to be another wrestling review. We are continuing our look at not only the WrestleMania matches for the month of March/April, but also we are in the second chapter of the Austin Rock trilogy, and it's time to jump 2 years ahead to WrestleMania 17. So, what would happen when The Rock and Austin faced off once again, and for the the WWF Championship? Let's find out. Of course, as always, I'm not professional wrestling reviewer and or anything like that. Just a man who enjoys a good time, and I had a real good time watching this match. This match was a lot of fun. Now, obviously, haven't seen WrestleMania 19 match yet, but this one and might be the best so far. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. Now, if you've seen these reviews of mine before, you kind of already know how this works. If you haven't, I'm going to be talking about what I liked and disliked about the match. Kind of a brief sum up of how exactly we got here. So, in 2001, Austin won the Royal Rumble match, and so he is challenging The Rock for the WWF Championship here, and The Rock won the WWF Championship from Kurt Angle, if I'm not mistaken. And let me see here. And went in 2001 Royal Rumble. Yes, so Rock became 6-time WWF champion, and by beating Kurt Angle at No Way Out that year. So Rock is WWF champion once again, and it's kind of an interesting road. Austin talking about how desperate he is. He's desperate to beat The Rock and become WWF champion again, and we'll find out how desperate he'll be when the match begins. At one point, Deborah was in the mix. Deborah was brought in. Deborah was at the time married to Stone Cold Steve Austin, and she was brought in as The Rock's manager, not Austin's manager. No. Brought in as The Rock's manager, or kind of for the psychological edge. Vince McMahon made it so, but she was taken out of the storyline in kayfabe by Kurt Angle. It looks like, but in reality. Or I think it's because Austin and felt she was unsafe because she was attacked by Kurt Angle. But in reality, I think it was a case of she didn't want to be involved, or Austin felt she shouldn't be involved. I forget exactly how it came about that Deborah was no longer in the storyline. It could just be as simple as they lost interest in her being in the storyline, and really, I don't think she was necessarily needed for the storyline. The storyline already had kind of a story built in with not only Austin winning the Royal Rumble, but then of course Austin and Rock facing off previously, and The Rock being the WWF champion. And so I think Deborah kind of became an afterthought when it comes to her involvement in this match. Probably a lot of people probably forgot she was involved at some point in this match. But of course, and because of course this is WrestleMania 17, of course I had to look at perhaps one of the greatest promo packages of all time between The Rock and Austin, featuring My Way by Limp Bizkit. Hell yeah. Probably he, in a lot of people's opinions, and I might agree, probably one of, if not the greatest WrestleMania match promo packages of all time. As the lyrics go on and they splice in what's happening versus the song. Yeah, great stuff. Sadly, I don't think that song's on my playlist. If it is not, I think I gotta add it. I think the only Limp Bizkit song I have on my playlist is "Rollin'," if I'm not mistaken. But perhaps one of the best. Of course, doing things my way, the highway. Hey, baby. So I'm just checking real quick. But anyway, getting into this match. Oh, damn! I don't have any Limp Bizkit on my Spotify. Hey, I gotta add some. Come on, man. Especially that song. Of course, it's iconic. What are you doing? Hey, Nigel. This, of course, was back when Limp Bizkit did a lot of music for WWF. To the point where Fred Durst was even in I believe he was in Just Bring It, if I'm not mistaken. It was either Just Bring It or Shut Your Mouth. So I'm gonna look that up real quick. SmackDown. Was it Just Bring It? I think it was Just Bring It. Yeah. Fred Durst was in SmackDown Just Bring It. Back in the day, wrestling and wrestling games were just different back then, and like we have celebrities in nowadays, but Fred Durst was like unlockable in the game. Yeah, it's just a different time. But anyway, starting with what I like, and I'm gonna be comparing and contrasting a lot between this match and obviously the match at WrestleMania 15. In this match, a lot more drama. There's a lot more drama, a lot more storytelling, especially with like the first match had it as well, but especially in this one, telling a story of Austin being desperate. Being desperate, going after The Rock, and The Rock having to fight off Austin, including Rock and Austin locking in dueling sharpshooters. There's admittedly Rock, notorious for his bad sharpshooter. This one of his better ones, I'll say. Meanwhile, Austin has an alright sharpshooter. It's definitely far from the worst. Austin even digging deep into his bag of tricks and pulling out the $1 million dream from his days as the ringmaster, or going against The Rock. And both Rock and Austin are also busted open throughout the course of this match. Thankfully, it's not as like gross looking as other kind of crimson masks, as in like blood that we've seen in wrestling before and since, but it does add more to the story of the match, and it really feels like a fight, and they really go for it. This match almost double the length of what the match was at WrestleMania 15, so I think that probably helped. And this one, just like the one at WrestleMania 15, is also no disqualification. So Rock and Austin again operating in the no disqualification territory. But some pretty good back and forth, or like it definitely feels very much like a fight. It's definitely got that big fight feel that had a main event, especially involving these two, and especially involving the story that we got to this point. It's definitely a main event that we definitely feel like we should get when it comes to this situation, this rivalry, what have you. And then Vince McMahon shows up. At first, we don't know why he's here. They're speculating on commentary. Commentary in this match is Jim Ross and Paul Heyman, and good old JR and Paul Heyman. A lot of people feel like this is probably one of the most underrated commentary duos. Admittedly, I don't think I've heard a whole lot of them like on commentary together, like just those two, but I do know they were paired up for a time, especially after Jerry Lawler had left, when they fired his then wife, the Cat, he left for a little bit. It was in other wrestling promotions and everything, but JR and Paul Heyman, I think, do really well theorizing why Vince is out there. And then Vince pulls The Rock off Austin, and then begins helping Austin, and including handing Austin a chair. And the commentary is super confused as to why Austin and Vince are working together. JR can't believe it. Paul Heyman is kind of giddy, and then Austin picks up the win after repeatedly nailing The Rock with the chair shot, including like the stunner, and The Rock kicking out and showing that resilience, and showing that kind of fighting spirit to kick out multiple stunners. I don't think I mentioned it in my WrestleMania 15 review, so I'll mention it here. The Rock is probably one of the best / funniest sellers of the stunner of all time. The way he just flips over. I think WrestleMania 15 was the first time that The Rock started doing that, because he had taken stunners before, but didn't really flop around like that. But this time I'm really doing that. Apparently, Rock did it specifically to make Stone Cold laugh, and it just kind of stuck. And later on, it made all of us laugh. But Austin ultimately pummeling The Rock with the chair, working together with Vince McMahon, and then Austin picks up the win, and shakes hands with Vince McMahon. JR with probably one of his best one of his best calls of all time, saying that Austin is shaking hands with Satan himself, and he very much is. Like obviously, I didn't watch at the time, so I see kind of in hindsight, like kind of the effects of this. But I imagine if you're watching at the time back then in 2001, it was a shock. Having Austin and McMahon, two people who have notoriously hated each other on storyline, constantly going back and forth, or such bad blood, such vitriol for each other, all that they had been through for years up to this. Austin attacking McMahon, McMahon attacking Austin, and their rivalry, especially throughout 1998, 1999, and some in 1997, and like all of that had just for them to then turn around and shake hands and work together to put away The Rock. And then Austin does attack The Rock with the title afterwards. I imagine it had to be a huge shock to everything, and everything was shaken up. Now, Austin's heel run and afterwards, that's something kind of a subject of debate. But this moment, and was definitely, I imagine if you were watching at the time, definitely was a shocker. And I'm gonna discuss more about it in just a moment. But in terms of what I didn't, but I will say this first. In terms of what I didn't quite like about the match, I think for a no disqualification match, somebody should let Earl Hebner know, because he inserted himself quite a bit. Yeah, unless that's Dave Hebner, in which case I apologize. In fact, let me take a look, see, because they have personnel. Nope, I had it right the first time. It was Earl Hebner, but. Earl Hebner inserting himself quite a bit. It's saying no, don't do that. Don't cheat. Like when Rock and or Austin are using the weapons, I think did get kind of annoying. Him inserting himself so much, and a lot more moves compared to WrestleMania 15. But definitely he brawl heavy at times, which I know a lot of people are kind of on the fence about. How some people like it, some people not as much. But yeah, so I think this match definitely had that. Okay, so just a quick air there, sorry, but the moment though, the thing I want to talk about at the end of this here, the moment of Stone Cold Steve Austin shaking hands with Vince McMahon, aligning himself with Vince McMahon, and aligning himself with Satan himself, as JR said, and a lot of people will kind of point to this is for. When John Cena turned heel earlier this year, that being present year 2025, a lot of people, and JR I think would have gave a hell of a call for John Cena turning heel, but obviously Jim Ross and AEW and everything, so obviously we didn't get that. But this moment of Austin turning heel, aligning himself with Vince McMahon, has been somewhat polarizing. Like it's a moment that's led to a lot of debate. It's sparked a lot of debate over the years since it happened. A lot of people have felt like it was good, it was great, it was shocking. A lot of people disliked it, said that it wasn't a good idea. It wasn't a good idea at the time. I know Brian Zane said it was a very bad timing for Austin to turn heel at the time. And admittedly, what's my stance on it? Especially with the power of hindsight, knowing how Austin's run as a heel was admittedly, yeah, maybe I shouldn't say it was bad. It was something. Like Austin and became a bit interesting. He would whine a lot hot. He became like kissing up to Vince McMahon a lot, showing even more of his comedic side. We would get the quote unquote old Stone Cold back as Vince begged him around the time of the Alliance, just for Austin to then turn around and join the Alliance. But that is something for another time, because I am going to talk about the Alliance story later on this year. But excuse me, as for my thoughts on the moment here, here's what I'll say. I can definitely see both sides. I can see why a lot of people dislike this moment. I can see why it made no sense, because for years these two have been warring against each other. Or granted, it's not the first time we've seen rivals turn allies or friends and everything. They've done it several times before and since. But this one, for as much storytelling, you gotta remember, this is a storyline that had been going on for years up to this point. Like, it kind of slowed down by like 2000, 2001 and so, but especially at the height of the Attitude Era, one of the biggest stories of the Attitude Era was the Rock, not the Rock, was the Austin versus McMahon rivalry. That being Vince McMahon representing the evil corporate boss, meanwhile Austin being the rebellious everyday common man and what have you, who defiant against authority. But to then go from that to them all of a sudden working together, shaking hands, being friends, being allies, they kind of teased at it during like the Ministry of Darkness storyline, when Vince did have to rely on Austin to save Stephanie from the Ministry of Darkness, just for them to then spit on that once Vince McMahon was revealed to be the higher power, or the Higher Power if you're going by Undertaker logic. So to go from all of that to them then being friends here at WrestleMania 17, or them being allies, Vince McMahon helping out Steve Austin, it was weird. It was jarring, to say the least. It was very much strange. It kind of betrayed so much of the story that they were telling, and it's something that came seemingly out of nowhere. But at the same time, what I'll also say is, it's definitely a shocker. It's definitely a massive shocker of a moment. And Paul Heyman, he was right on the money. He called it in this match. He said, this is a moment that people will talk about for years. And lo and behold, we have been talking about this for years. This is probably one of the most recognizable WrestleMania moments, is McMahon shaking hands with Austin. These two long-time rivals shaking hands. It was a shocker of a moment. But I think it also does fit into the story we've been told. Austin has said to this point in the storyline that he is desperate to win the WWF Championship. He needs to be WWF champion again. He's desperate for it. He wants so badly to be champion again. And would you really put it past a desperate man to go to the lowest points and crawl back to someone who has the power to do so? Someone who can seemingly guarantee him that in Vince McMahon, like Austin, desperate enough to sell his soul, which that's something we've heard recently, obviously going back to the John Cena thing. Would you put it past Austin and to be desperate enough to sell his soul, like Austin selling his morals and everything? It definitely plays into how desperate he is to win back the WWF Championship. So I think it does work in that regard. Right, obviously, in hindsight, I may be a different opinion, but I think in this moment, and I can see both sides. So that's why I kind of say, is it a net positive or a net negative? I think just the moment itself, because technically to this point, nothing else has happened yet, Ed. We're still right at this point. We are still right at April 1st, 2001. Oh, April Fool's Day. We are still at April 1st, 2001. For all intents and purposes, the rest hasn't happened yet. It's in that moment of Austin shaking hands with McMahon, I can see both sides. And I think overall, it definitely, to have a shocking WrestleMania moment, they definitely got it. To really sell the idea that Austin is willing to sell his soul in order to fulfill his desire, his desperation to be WWF champion again, I think they definitely accomplished it. Whether that's the route a lot of people would have gone with when it comes to the story, I'm sure it's up for debate. But I say that to say, I can see both sides. I definitely overall, I definitely think the moment, and whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, I think it depends on how you look at it. Like if you're looking at just a moment, oh yeah, yeah, like that's a shocker, or it's something that nobody saw coming. But obviously in the long term, things kind of turn out to be different. But yeah, so I think that's kind of where I stand on that. I know it's kind of a non-answer. I know some of you might not be satisfied with that. I do apologize, but it is something to think about, and it is very much an interesting topic for debate, which is why it's been debated whether it's a good thing or a bad thing for years to this point. Oh, uh, but that is going to do it for this review. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please do me a favor, like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends, turn on those post notifications so you know every time I upload a video so you never miss an upload, and let me know in the comments below. First of all, let me know what your thoughts on the match, my review of the match. Do you like the match? Do you like a review of the match? Let me know. But also, let me know in the comments below, do you think Steve Austin turning heel and joining up with Vince McMahon was a good decision, a good idea, or a bad idea? Please let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear you guys' feedback. But thank you all so much for watching. I will see you guys later. Peace.